In today's video, going to be filling out a hypothetical 2020 Electoral College map matchup between Democratic challenger Joe Biden and current Republican President Donald Trump. As you can see on the map, I've already filled out the dark blue states as being safe for the Democrats and Biden, and dark red as being safe for Trump and the Republicans. But all the other states, I think, warrant at least somewhat of a discussion in a Biden versus Trump matchup. And Biden, he can make a pretty strong case in this very crowded 2020 Democratic field, where the data, at least at this early point in the process, is very strong and favorable in his potential ability to take down Donald Trump. Basically, in every poll that we've seen in state-specific results, has Biden doing well against Trump or better against Trump than all of the other 2020 Democratic candidates. So that's definitely something that he can take out there and campaign on. If you want to take on Donald Trump, the polls are showing that I'm his toughest matchup, so that's why you should elect me. Now, we've seen Biden in the past not have a whole lot of success in his runs for the presidency, but this is a very different situation. He's had 8 years as vice president under, obviously, former President Barack Obama. He has a strong positive association with that can carry over to a lot of these Democratic voters that have nostalgic feelings for that time period before Trump became president. And just the fact that he has universal name recognition, also something that's very helpful. And he's going to be a serious contender on the Democrat side. We'll see if he's able to have success more so in the early states this time around, which could potentially help catapult his campaign, especially if people are bowing out and then maybe coming and supporting his candidacy. That could also be a positive. And then there's one other card to throw in the mix here. That's the fact that on the Republican side in 2020, it's pretty much foregone conclusion that Trump is going to be their nominee. So if you have an open primary state, those Republican voters can participate in the process, and maybe they want to come out and support somebody like a Joe Biden who's a bit more of a centrist and is trying to appeal more to those Republican voters that have a distaste for Donald Trump. So we'll see how this all plays out in the coming years. Now I want to go through and start filling out this map and how I would see it playing out in this matchup between Biden and Trump. So I'm going to start out west, go to the southeast, work my way up to the northeast, and then finish in the Midwest. And before I even start this map, I just want to say that I think Biden has a really strong case to be made that he could do well against Donald Trump. The fact that I think he can do well with those Republican voters that have a distaste for Donald Trump. It's not necessarily a big portion of the Republican Party, but perhaps he's more effective in bringing in those types of votes that Hillary Clinton tried to do back in 2016, but just didn't have success in doing so, just given how terrible her approval and favorability numbers were, in contrast to how strong those numbers are for Joe Biden. So starting off here, just to talk generally about the American Southwest, the Democrats have been making a ton of gains here over the past decade or so, and it's looking like that trend is going to continue into the future. The demographics are getting better for them, and they've been winning consistently a lot of these statewide elections, both in terms of Senate, governorship, as well as even Hillary Clinton was able to win, for instance, in Nevada back in 2016. We think that Biden would be able to win Nevada quite, at least semi-convincingly, especially given the fact that Clinton was able to defeat Trump by about 3 or 4 percentage points. Biden likely would do even better than that. Also, Colorado has become very consistent for the Democrats, and New Mexico. And then you have Arizona here, where it's a very purple state all of a sudden. The Democrats winning the 2018 Senate race with Kyrsten Sinema. She was able to flip that seat for the Democrats. And the fact that Joe Biden is more of a moderate Democrat, I think that also plays pretty well out here in Arizona, on top of the fact that Joe Biden has really strong favorables amongst older voters, which is an important demographic to do well with in Arizona. I think that he would have the lean to win the state of Arizona, which would be a very important pickup for the Democrats. They can, if they take Arizona, that means that they potentially don't have to win one of these Midwestern states, such as Wisconsin, that has a similar number of electoral college votes. So now talking about Texas, still a Republican-leaning state, no doubt about that. The demographics are continuing to get better for the Democrats, again, in this southwest region of the United States. We saw in 2018 Beto O'Rourke coming up just short against Ted Cruz, and that really reinvigorated the Democratic Party. I think that they're going to be putting more resources into these Texas races going into the future based on what O'Rourke was able to display and prove back in 2018. And the demographics aren't getting any better going for these parties, or for the Republican Party anyway, going into 2020. We still think that this is a Republican lean state, but sometime over the next decade, this is likely to become a pretty interesting, potentially battleground state. We'll see how that plays out, but still going to be giving the lean to Trump He was able to defeat Clinton here by, I believe it was about 9 percentage points back in 2016. Again, Biden would likely do a lot better than that, but still, I think he would probably come up just short at the end of the day. So now going into the Southeast, we'll start with Georgia. In that 2018 governor's race, it was extremely close. Stacey Abrams coming up just short there. Georgia, in comparison to most of these other southeastern states, is a bit more competitive. They have a very large African-American population, but also the liberalizing effect of living in and around the metropolitan area of the Atlanta region. And a lot of these different districts have been showing a lot more strength for the Democrats in recent election cycles. That's having an effect on the state as a whole, where things are getting pretty interesting here in Georgia. Still, at the end of the day, I think Trump is able to eke this one out. He defeated Hillary Clinton here by only around 5 or so percentage points. I think Biden could push this one right to the end, but still would like to see some polling or more data out of this one before flipping it over and giving it to Biden. But I actually think he could make things really interesting in Georgia. And then that carries us over into Florida, a state that's always close in presidential years. The Obama-Biden ticket was able to do pretty well here and win it back in 2008 as well as 2012. And then Hillary Clinton, of course, coming up short in 2016 by around 1 percentage point. The Republicans actually did pretty well in the state of Florida in 2018, but Biden, again, he does very well amongst older voters in terms of his approval and favorability. That's an important demographic here. And also just the fact that his ticket with Obama did very well in Florida in 2 election cycles. I think that he plays well in this state, and I would give this one as a lean over to Biden and the Democrats. So now I want to move into some of these other states that I have leaning more towards the Republicans. So starting off here up in Montana, Democrats have proven that they can win statewide elections. Of course, John Tester winning his reelection bid. They have a Democratic governor. But still, Montana has consistently been for the Republicans in presidential years. Donald Trump did very well there. I think Biden can make things at least semi-interesting in Montana, but still giving that one as a pretty strong lean over to Donald Trump. And likewise in Kansas as well as Missouri. So Kansas is an interesting situation. Out of these Great Plains states, not quite as Republican and not quite as favorable in terms of their opinion of Donald Trump. They actually just elected a statewide election there. The governorship went to the Democrats in 2018. And given how the Republicans ran the state prior to the Democrats obviously winning the governorship in 2018, has nicked the Republican Party and people's feelings towards it in the state of Kansas. And I think that that could potentially carry over into 2020. But again, this has been a consistent stronghold for Republicans in prior presidential campaigns, and still think that they would have a pretty strong lean here in a Trump-Biden matchup, but it's at least within the realm of potentially being competitive. And Missouri, if we look at recent cycles, Donald Trump did phenomenally well in this state in 2016, absolutely crushed Hillary Clinton. There is not a whole lot of positive feelings in this particular state for somebody like a Hillary Clinton. If we go back a little bit further than that, in 2008, Barack Obama actually was extremely close to John McCain. It was the closest state, I believe, in that 2018 cycle, or excuse me, 2008 cycle, where Obama lost it by, I think it was around like 0.3 percentage points. But ever since that point in time back in 2008, this state has been trending more so towards the Republicans. Now, Democrats have proven over the past decade they can win statewide here. The governorship used to be in the Democrats' hands. Now it's over to the Republicans. Same with Claire McCaskill's Senate seat. And again, that's just showing you that this state is trending a bit more towards the Republicans. We think a candidate like Joe Biden could possibly make things interesting here, but still at the end of the day, you're going to be giving that lean over to Trump and the Republicans. So now I want to move over to the East. North Carolina, very purple state. They have a Democratic governor right now. And Hillary Clinton lost to Trump here in 2016 by around 3 or so percentage points. We haven't gotten a ton of polling data, but the data that we have gotten out of North Carolina thus far has been really positive for Joe Biden. I believe I saw one poll where he was up by about 5 points over Donald Trump in North Carolina. I think it would be really, really competitive. But again, you have a strong African-American presence and vote here that's going to be likely very positive for Biden's chances. And I actually would give him a slight lean over Trump in the state of North Carolina. Now moving up to Virginia, this is a state that has been trending more so towards the Democrats. Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine obviously being helped by Tim Kaine to win this one back in 2016. And in 2018, in the midterms, the Democrats did very well in this state. And Donald Trump's favorability is pretty low relative in Virginia compared to surrounding states. We think that Biden would be a pretty safe bet to go on and win in Virginia. Moving up to Pennsylvania, I think that this is a pretty relatively safe one. I'm not going to go all the way, obviously blue or even to the next stage. Just going to be putting it as a lean, but Pennsylvania, the Democrats dominated statewide there back in 2018 with the Senate and governorship. And then also Joe Biden has ties to the state of Pennsylvania through his ties with Scranton. I think that Joe Biden, it would be pretty surprising if he wasn't able to pick up this key state, and another reason why his candidacy has a lot of fuel behind it in terms of making that effort that they could be the potential best option to go up against Trump. So filling that one in here. And you can see Biden already well over the line here at 293, but we still have quite a few states left here to fill out. I'm going to go up into the Northeast and then finish out there in the Midwest. So New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton was able to win it. Joe Biden, I think that he plays a lot better in a state like New Hampshire than Hillary Clinton was. Clinton did really bad in the New Hampshire primaries in 2016, but she was still able to just carry the state. I think that this would be one where Joe Biden would also be able to carry it if Clinton was able to back in 2016. And then also moving over to Maine's 2nd Congressional District, I think ranked choice voting plays a role here, just like it did back in 2018, where the Democrats picked up that congressional seat over an incumbent Republican, and that was affected by that ranked choice voting. Even if Biden comes up short, I think at the end of the day, because of ranked choice voting, he could still pull this one out and win it over Donald Trump. So now we'll move over Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. This is a very winnable district for the Democrats. They had a very progressive candidate run there in 2018. She didn't get all that much help from the Democratic establishment, and she still lost by only 2 percentage points. Really strong, positive result there. I think that Biden plays well in the Midwest, and that's enough for him to get over the line and win the 2nd Congressional District. Again, that's very gettable for the Democrats in the state of Nebraska if they choose the right kind of candidate. So now moving into some of these other Midwestern states. So Indiana, of course, you have Mike Pence as the VP under Trump. And this is another one of these states here in the Midwest that is trending a bit more towards the Republicans. I think out of all the 2020 Democratic hopefuls, Biden could at least make things somewhat interesting, but this is still a pretty safe result at the end of the day, I think, for that Trump-Pence ticket. And then Ohio, another state here in this region that has been trending a bit more to the Republicans. And before filling out this state, I just want to say, even though the Democrats are making a lot of gains and doing quite well now in the American Southwest, where maybe they didn't 10 or so years ago, the Republicans are kind of making similar gains in states like Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin. That's helping them potentially try to win some of these important states going into 2020. Now, Ohio, Trump is liked in a lot of different parts of this state. He won convincingly over Hillary Clinton by around 8 or so percentage points. I'd actually give him a slight lean to take this one in contrast to Joe Biden. Biden has a lot of things that he can be attacked on by Trump, specifically in a state like Ohio in terms of the free trade, different things that he supported throughout his career. And I'd love to see some more data in a state like Ohio before flipping this one over to Biden. Now, you might say there's no way that Trump could win a state like Ohio and then lose states like Arizona or Florida or North Carolina, but that might be right historically. But if you just look back in 2016, Trump won in Ohio by around 8 or so percentage points, whereas North Carolina, Arizona were around 3 percentage points, and Florida was around 1 percentage point. So there's definitely a scenario where the Democrats could pick up states like Arizona, North Carolina, and Florida and still lose a state like Ohio. And then going into the rest of these states here, Iowa, again, I think could be really close between Biden and Trump, but the fact that Trump did so well in Iowa back in 2016, winning it by around 10 or so percentage points, extremely positive sign there. But then you could also make the case back in 2008 and 2012, the Obama-Biden ticket was able to pick up Iowa. I think that the Democrats could definitely make gains and potentially even flip the state of Iowa. But again, I'd like to see some more polling data before flipping this one completely over to Biden, given how well Trump did there back in 2016. And then we have Minnesota. The Democrats dominated there back in 2018. It would be shocking if they weren't able to pick it up in 2020. Even Clinton was able to win in Minnesota back in 2016, and there isn't a whole lot of love for Clinton in Minnesota. She did very poorly in those 2016 primaries against Bernie Sanders in the state. And then we have Wisconsin and Michigan. Michigan, first and foremost. Again, I'd be really surprised if Biden wasn't able to pick up Michigan. This is a state where Democrats did very well back in 2018. And in general, the Democrats win the state of Michigan in presidential elections. It was pretty surprising that Trump was able to flip the state and was a key catalyst in him becoming president last time around. But I think it would be a pretty safe result for Biden to pick up the state, especially after the Democrats did quite well there back in the midterms. And then also Wisconsin, giving this one as just a slight lean over to Biden and the Democrats. This is probably potentially the most important state of the 2020 process, especially if the Democrats don't necessarily elect a candidate that is considered to be very strong in a general election matchup. It could hinge on winning the key states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Wisconsin has been trending a bit more Republican over the past decade plus. We'll see how that plays out. The Biden-Obama ticket was able to win the state back in 2008 and 2012, and I think that Biden would be able to carry it. So then, at the end of the day, that puts us in a situation where I have Biden at 335 electoral votes and Donald Trump at 203. I think that Biden would be a pretty formidable opponent to Trump and think that he would have a pretty good shot at going on and winning. So that's going to end this video, guys. Thanks for stopping on in, and consider subscribing for more of this analysis in the future. And I hope to see you guys back here for my next video.